think we get it, we'll get it right out there unless we also get it right in here. And that's why a lot of our work has focused on what does it mean to access and integrate the most robust and the richest sense of prayer and spirituality that our tradition has to offer, the legacy of the Christian community has to offer. And so that's why we started, Eric mentioned, we have to offer a new program now called Engaging Spirituality. And of course, it's meant to have two meanings, right? How do we engage the historical, the legacy of great spiritual practices that have existed throughout history? And how do we develop a spirituality that engages the world? Because there is another version of spirituality, in Catholicism has its egregious examples of this, where people run off, and they light incense and candles, and you get on their knees, and and it's all about me and mine and mine. It's almost like a spiritual narcissism, right? And it doesn't draw us into the world. In some ways, it separates us from the world. The question is, how do we develop a prayer life, a spirituality that throws us into the life of each other? And so this program called Engaging Spirituality, which last year we piloted for the first time. The results were really enthusing because people want to do the work out there, but unless they have the spiritual resources, quite frankly, here's what will happen. You will burn out fast. You will get fried to a crackly crunch. And you will become crabby and mean and cynical unless you have the spiritual resources to sustain looking into the face of human suffering day after day after day. I have been to Central America a few times, and I've spent a year later, not 5 years later, not 15 years later. I'll just share this one story. Eric's never heard this one before. I was part of a Just Faith group. Now, I'll explain Just Faith in just a minute. But Just Faith is essentially a rather rigorous curriculum that invites people to consider the kinds of things that you all are here to talk about this week. And it involves engaging in Scripture like this, and the stories of remarkable people, and so forth and so on. And it's 30 sessions long. It's a pretty big deal, actually. And in the 10th week, I remember the third year I was doing this, there was a very thoughtful man in the group. And we had just very rousing conversation that moved him deeply. And it was after a video that we had seen in which images of people going to garbage dumps all over the world to find food for the kids. Just terribly provocative. And so this guy's name was Ted. Ted, he didn't talk a whole lot, but he knew he wanted to talk when he would take his glasses off. So he took his glasses off very slowly, put them on the table. Put his pencil down and he said, I need some help here. He said, I am 58 years old. I've been going to church every day of my life. How come I'm not hearing about this until now? Can somebody tell me why it would seem the most likely part of our tradition I have never heard before? So, salvation seems to have something to do with our ability to embrace an invitation by God to be about everybody's care. It's God's invitation to give our life away. Either we say yes or we say no. And that's what it means to follow Jesus. And yes, I believe in Jesus. And the question is, when I say I believe in Jesus, what do I mean? I believe that in giving my life away, I receive it. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, where's its life? There's no other way. There is not another faith to be held. Okay. Now I know that will jostle. One of the places we'd end up would be in the home of Simon the leper. Who wants to go there? See? Now we think we don't. This is $85 an hour stuff. This is interesting. Paul calls it a folly and a stumbling block. Here's the deal. When when people, and I'll use a Catholic image because that's what I know best, but you probably can fill in the blanks here. When people look at Mother Teresa, this is what they typically do. She's there. Very nice. Very nice. Wow. Paragon of holiness. But backing up like the entire time. You know, caring for dying people on the streets of Bombay? I don't think so, right? I mean, but that's the experience on the outside. So Paul says, folly and stumbling block from those looking on. But the experience, interesting, is on the inside. The people who are doing it. And again, I'll use Teresa just as an example, but you can find this also in the testimonies of, I could give you a million testimonies, but we'll use Teresa. About 5 years before her death, somebody from Time magazine was doing an interview with her, and their question was, you know, Mother Teresa, you've been doing this work for a long time, and you're an old woman. And, you know, have you thought about retiring? And maybe getting a nice little cabin in Vermont on a lake? Maybe you won't. I know I'm being a little silly here, but I mean the point was retiring and then and she said, that's not it. She says, why would I trade the things that fill me up for fool's gold? For fool's gold. The things that can't fill me up. Right? Living water. Right? The things that don't fill us up, the things that aren't living, right? And so we do. And the reality is in this culture, now we're not talking about El Salvador, but in this culture, there is just such a preoccupation with things that will not fill us up, isn't there? I mean, every advertisement is like, you're not happy unless you have these jeans or that car or this house or whatever it is.